My boyfriend, 26, and I, 24 female, have been dating for just over 2 years. We've never lived together. In September 2020, my boyfriend took a job in a different city 2 hours away, without asking me for my opinion or even telling me that he'd applied for it. It was his dream job, and so not taking it was never an option, he said. He never asked me to move with him, but I wouldn't have been able to move with him even if he had asked. I live in the same town as my parents, who are ill, and I wouldn't want to move away while they still need me. My job is also here. The city he's moving to is also nearly twice as expensive to rent in. This obviously caused some friction between us and we almost broke up over it, but ultimately I agreed to visit him regularly. Since he moved, I've gone to visit him once or twice a month for a week at a time when global issue allowed, and it's not cheap. The train to see him is about $50 each way. We don't live in the US, but that's the currency conversion rate. So I'm spending about $100 to $200 each month to see him, and I pay half of any grocery shopping we do. I also rent my own apartment back in my hometown. When I visit him, I stay at his apartment where he lives alone, and he pays around $975 per month in rent. Edit, because apparently people don't get this, my job lets me work from home, so I work from his apartment. I don't take 2 weeks off work every month, LMAO. Last week he told me that he wants me to start paying half his bills and half the rent for when I come to stay with him. Edit, for clarity, I spend between 1 or 2 weeks there, so he's asked for half the bills and half the rent of those periods, not the total month. I told him that I wasn't okay with that for a few reasons. He's the one who chose to move to an expensive city without any of my input. I already pay $100 or $200 on train fares to see him, which he doesn't contribute to, and I have to pay for my own apartment. If I paid half his rent, my cost of living would be higher than his for a situation I didn't choose. He replied that it wasn't fair that his bills increase when I visit because of the water, electricity, etc. I told him that my train fare was the equivalent of that and also much more expensive than just my portion of his water, so if he wanted me to pay half the bills, he would have to pay half my train fare. This apparently wouldn't be fair, as he's not the one taking the train, so he shouldn't have to pay. At this point, I just told him that either he pays half my train fare, we both move somewhere that isn't stupidly expensive, or I stop visiting. He told me I was being unwilling to compromise, and the atmosphere has been frosty ever since. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, but I've spoken to a few friends about it, and the opinion seems pretty split. So I'm the idiot here? Not the idiot. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't communicate or respect you. He moved, he chose that without so much as a "what do you think" convo. He made you come to him. You pay for food when you visit. You pay for all travel expenses. You put your life on pause half the time to see him on his terms. Now he's demanding money to spend time with him? What? This guy only ever thinks about himself. You can do so much better. It's his loss. Not the idiot. Wow, so you're the one that puts in the time and effort and expense to visit, but he still wants to nickel and dime you? This is not the sound of a loving relationship. He wants to be with you if it's worth his while. Why are you putting up with this? Why are you always the one who visits him? He wants you to pay half the rent for an apartment you don't actually live in anywhere close to full time that you already pay to visit in the form of travel costs? No, that's beyond stupid. You're his girlfriend, not his sugar mommy. If he says his bills get higher due to your visits, he can start visiting you instead. Are you sure he's worth dating? I had to read your story twice because the mere fact that he's asking confuses me. He wants to bill you for the electricity and water that you consume. OMG, either he's the pettiest, entitled and most delusional man I've ever heard about, or he's pushing for you to break up with him without having the balls to say it out loud. And frankly, I would think option 2 is more likely. I don't think you have to break up face to face for this one. A simple text will do. I, 23 male, started working for my church this summer. It's a fairly small church and is short on money and really needs extra hands. I turned down an internship at an accounting firm just to work here because they've helped me through so much. I was homeless before. The pay is absolute garbage and isn't even close to minimum wage, but I'm doing it because they are basically the only family I have. I do pretty general work, cleaning up the building, but I mainly budget their finances. They asked me and some churchgoers to help out with planning a barbecue event to celebrate the Phase 2 reopening of Ontario. They asked me to find some money within the budget to make this happen and help out with grilling and cooking the food. I asked my pastor how the pay would work since I usually only work during the week. He straight up told me that it was for God and that I shouldn't be expected to be paid on a Sunday. So essentially, he wants me to plan the whole thing, cook like 100 patties, set up the place we're going to, and do it all for free. I literally laughed in his face because I thought he was joking, but then he looked at me and I realized that he was being completely serious. I told him he's crazy if he thinks I'm doing all of that for free, and he said to me that being paid to work for the church is already a blessing enough. I quit on the spot, and now I'm being completely ostracized by the community. How can he be doing this after all the church has given him? Wow, really shows his faith in Christ. Like, what? Okay, I admit I'm not the most faithful person, and I get that they've helped me out so much in the past, but I need to make a living. I live in a garbage apartment and barely have enough to stay afloat, so my pastor shot me a text the other day to give me another chance. Am I the idiot, or should I just suck it up and do it? I feel like I'm kind of being an idiot here, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to be doing all that for free. Welcome to organized religion. You are not the idiot, OP. The pastor makes a living wage. I'm sure everyone who's given you a hard time fully expects to be paid for their time at work. This is your work. This is how you make a living. So it's not the same as these other people who donate their time. I'm sure if any one of their bosses asked them to run an event and give up their Sunday, they would all have a fit. Time to check in on that accounting internship to see if they have room for you. That's Cult Social Engineering 101. I got you on your darkest hour, help you to stand on your feet, now your butt is mine. Oh, you don't want to bend your will? Well, let us apply a little coercion. Cold shoulder everyone because he doesn't want to work for free. When you do something to help your fellow man and call it charity, you don't judge if the person will pay you back, when and how. You're supposed to do it because that's your duty, not because you're recruiting unpaid labor for your church. Why didn't they tell him, man, now that you're doing better, help us get someone else out of the streets? Not the idiot, but turning down an accounting internship to waste time with the church was a bad move from the start. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. First, find a stable job. Then you can volunteer your time if you want to give back to the community, and I'm sure there are many other churches and organizations who you can partner with who help the homeless. Not the idiot. You may see them as family, but they clearly don't see you the same way. Charity is given unconditionally. You know who wasn't at the Last Supper? The blind guy Jesus helped to see again, pouring the wine because Jesus said he owed him something after everything he'd done for him. These people are not real Christians. Forgive them and move on to a job that pays you for the work you do. My 35 female young teen daughter is transgender. She first started expressing the desire to be a girl at age 10. We took it slow, did a lot of research, had a lot of therapy, and my husband and I have been trying to support her as best we can. At this point, she's out to everyone in her life and lives as a girl full-time. When she first came out, we suggested that she go by a feminine version of her birth name, think Sam to Samantha. That worked for a while because she didn't have strong feelings about her name at the time, but recently she's expressed a desire to change her name again to something she feels more of a connection to. The problem is, I cannot bring myself to accept her chosen name. She wants to be called Electra. She's not interested in Greek mythology or anything, she just found the name on a baby name website and it appealed to her. The first thing I think of when I hear that name is Freud's Electra complex. The second thing I think of is electricity. It's just not a pleasant-sounding name. It has weird psycho implications, and I've never met a single person in my life who has that name. I get that she's a young teen and she wants to feel cool and unique. I don't mind if she changes her name from what we've been using, but I would love to be able to spare her from having a name that I find honestly embarrassing. So when she gave me the news, I told her that I'm fine with her changing her name, but that she should find something that she'll want to use long-term and probably won't want to be called Electra when she's older. I suggested that we look at different names together and find something unique but a bit more palatable. We ended up having an argument that consisted of me trying to explain my reasons for disliking the name and her asserting over and over that she can name herself what she wants. I eventually called for a truce because we weren't getting anywhere, and she spent the rest of the evening pouting about it. I know I'm probably being selfish. I have to advocate for her constantly to other adults in her life. We live in a conservative area and I constantly have to correct people, justify her decisions, and protect her from cruelty. It's just the same exhausting battle over and over. I'm happy to do it because I firmly believe that she has a right to transition and I know she's happier as a girl. but the thought of having to defend the name Electra on top of everything else just fills me with dread. Is it too controlling to ask that I have a say in her name at this age? My husband agrees with me, but my kids think I'm trying to force conformity onto her. This is a hard one. I have a lot of transgender friends, and a chosen name is something incredibly dear and important. After all, it's your first identification with anyone in the world. A name is precious. I suppose you could find a middle ground and ask if she's willing to have her nickname as Ellie on the back of Electra, then you can call her Ellie. I'm a trans woman, and yes, sometimes we choose weird names. And yes, it's very important to sense of self and agency, reclaiming our lost, stolen identity to have our names respected. So while Electra is cringe, you have to let her go by what she wants to go by. I think having Electra be the official name and positively encouraging Ellie as a nickname is a fantastic compromise, and I hope your daughter responds well to it. No idiots here, because you are doing the right thing overall, and I think you're also right about the name Electra having some bad connotations, and as a first name is a thing that's just going to cause her, and yes, you, extra grief. She is also not the idiot because she's right that it's her name. She should have the right to choose the name she wants. She just lacks the age and experience to understand where you might be coming from with some of the history and baggage that the name Electra might have to many people of certain generations. At the end of the day, I just let her run with it and defend everything but the name. Then if she wants that name, she can defend that. My dad died when I was a kid. My parents were long since divorced. My mom introduced me to her husband 2 days after my 13th birthday and married him 5 months later. I think my mom's husband was hoping I would see him as another parent and dad figure. But because of my age, I always saw him as my mom's husband. We get along fine, but he was never someone I looked to for dad stuff. So that fell to my grandpa, my dad's dad. Even before my dad died, I was around my paternal grandparents a lot, and I looked to my grandpa as another dad figure. So when I got engaged last year, I asked my grandfather if he would walk me down the aisle. Not because I wanted something super traditional, but I was always a daddy's girl and he was my favorite person when I was a kid, so he would have been by my side regardless. My fiancé and I decided we would walk together with one parent each beside us. I chose my grandfather in place of my dad, and my fiancé chose his mom. I didn't really say anything because I didn't think I needed to. But when my mom's husband asked me who was walking me and I told him, my grandpa, he got quiet for like an hour and then asked me why I chose my grandpa over him. My mom was there at that point and asked why I would ask a grandparent over a parent. I said I wanted my grandpa there to represent my dad because we had a very close, very important relationship. I said my mom and her husband would be walking together during the wedding. They said it wasn't enough and that he should have been asked first as the true father figure. I told them my grandpa was more of a father figure to me and had the more influential role in my life, and that I was sorry if feelings were hurt, but my grandpa was who I wanted there. My mom's husband said I should have considered him more and at least just walk with my fiancé if I wouldn't even ask him to be at my side. My mom told me she was disappointed in me, that it's not what my dad would have wanted. I told her I think this is what my dad would have wanted, which she couldn't argue back with. It's been a little bit awkward and there's still tension there. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your wedding, your choice. Your stepfather is making your wedding about him and his hurt feelings. He was your mother's choice, not yours, and you're much closer to your paternal grandfather. Your stepfather is allowed to have his feelings on the issue, but that's where it ends. Him telling you that you should have considered him more and just to walk with your fiancé crosses the line. You're doing what feels natural and best for you. Now your mother and stepfather need to respect your decision. You've done nothing wrong here. It's fine for him to ask and fine for him to hope, and even fine for him to be disappointed. But by asking more questions, he will only hurt himself since there's no non-hurtful answer of why you like someone else better than him. A lesson most of us learned in middle school. Not the idiot. It's your wedding, not your mother's. She had her wedding twice and got to be walked down the aisle by who she wanted, and it's your call about who you see as a father figure. Try to be sensitive about it if you can. You don't want to cause long-term damage for no good reason. They'll learn to live with it eventually. I really don't get all these step-parents who try to push their own agendas on unwilling stepchildren. Being treated with civility and respect is all you can demand, really. But then, if step-parents all behaved, we wouldn't have such stories. I, 26 female, live in the downstairs apartment of a twin home converted into 2 apartments. I've lived here for 4 years and became friendly with the woman, 80, who lived in the attached twin. She owned her home and the small vacant lot next door to her side. The plot is about a small twin home. She was lonely, having lost her husband and son, and her grandson was very busy, so I'd hang out with her, maintain her yard and run errands. She was truly one of the best people I've known, but sadly she passed away last year. So naturally she left her home to her grandson, but I was shocked to learn that she'd left the vacant lot to me. I've been saving everything I can to build a home on that lot, and I'm close to my goal, hoping to break ground this year. My neighbour's house, now her grandson's, has 4 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, but he's living with his girlfriend and 6 others, so it's 8 people total with 8 cars and street parking only. They've been parking on my lot, which has messed up the lawn, and they've also run over flower beds multiple times. I first put up a private property no parking sign just in case it wasn't them, but same cars, no difference. I happened to be walking into my apartment one day when I noticed one of the neighbours parking and politely asked them to stop, explaining the situation. She told me it was part of her lease that they had private parking on my lot. I told her I was sorry, but to please stop and let roommates know. It's been 2 months and they have not stopped parking there. I've tried politely asking several of them, left a note on each car, no change. Last week I finally left notes saying it would be towed at their expense if they didn't stop parking there. Unfortunately, 3 of them didn't stop and got towed. They obviously think I'm the idiot and want me to pay because it's a vacant lot that I inherited. I now feel like a Karen, but I worked on that lot for years to make it look nice, which it no longer does, and it's literally my property. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Not only is it not theirs, but they're also actively trespassing. I don't see this ending well. I recommend a small step of installing a cheap fence and then putting a camera on the lot so you can catch it if they start to vandalize things. I'm petty too, so I'd also hire a professional landscaping crew to put the lot right and then send them the bill. Not the idiot. They know what they're doing. Grandson is angry you got the land and is showing his disrespect. Don't stand for it. They will never stop. However, do you really want to build on the lot next door to the terrible grandson and his 400 tenants? If it were me, I'd look into selling the lot and using the money to buy elsewhere. Not the idiot, and now that you've started towing them, do it every single time. Do not let the grandson use you as a doormat. You are really much more polite than you needed to be, out of respect for the friend who left you the land. But no more. I agree with the other writers who said you should consider just selling the lot and being out from underneath that guy. No sense in building a house where you will have a bad neighbour feud the rest of the time.